Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome to another unboxing for the Marvel Legendary Series. This is the Messiah Complex. So, just a quick, brief rundown on what the Messiah Complex story was. Is after the House of M saga in the Marvel Universe, Scarlet Witch declared no more mutants. Like 90% of the mutant population lost their powers, and there was no new mutants being born. Then miraculously, one day, Baby Hope was discovered. So this kind of follows part of that, where there's some people that were trying to hunt down Baby Hope, which are like the Predators, the Predator X, and then it follows into the next big arc that you get after that was Cable started going through time with her to rescue her. And he's being chased by Bishop. And that was the second Genesis. And then the Messiah Complex had to do with finally the mutants are on the Utopia Island outside San Francisco, and Bastion and a bunch of other characters, people that don't like mutants were trying to they surrounded Utopia, so the X-Men couldn't get out, and they started sending Sentinels after them to basically try and finish wiping out the mutants. And it had to do with part of that, as well as them being as Hope came back, and then it gets into that time. So it's a combination of kind of those three different big events, even though it just says it's in the Messiah Complex. So it all revolves around that. Those mutants were dying out. New baby was raised. They time traveled to keep her alive, keep her out of harm's way. When she came back to the present time, then they're like, hey, this is our chance to finally wipe out all the mutants. And they tried, and ultimately they did fail. Otherwise there wouldn't be X-Men anymore. And this would be a really sad set. So that's kind of the gist of it. This is a deluxe edition box, so it actually has... instead of having the normal 5 heroes, we have 8 heroes. They did this before with the Revelation set. It's kind of their way of doing like a mini big box set. I don't think they want to re-release. Occasionally they're going to re-release the big boxes, which have 15 heroes in them. But this is a good way for them to release something sort of in between. If you look at it in comic book terms, it would be like the giant size issue, or annual issue type of thing, where it's a little bit bigger. It's it's the 100-page issue instead of the normal 30 or whatever. But it lets them get them extra 3, maybe 4 characters out without having to do a full box set. Because then they can still have their they can have a third mastermind. They don't have to come up with 4 or 5. It gives them a little free range to expand a little extra stuff without having to do a full big giant box. This set adds a bunch of new features and new characters and all sorts of awesome stuff. There's 200 cards in here, 8 heroes, 3 masterminds, 4 villain groups, 2 henchmen groups. More henchmen groups are always fun. 4 steams, 7 bystanders, special sidekicks, and 3 special bystanders. And the special sidekicks are really fun, and we'll go over them when we get there. So let's look at some of the stuff that's in this set. So look at the little info sheet. So first of all, we're of course going to have some X-Men. So there's only actually one character in the set that is an X-Men character, with the X-Men symbol. When we have a brand new team, we have X-Factor Investigations. This is the second incarnation of X-Factor. The original team of X-Factor, people from X-Men, which had Havoc and Polaris, or Polaris, I guess, depending on how you say it. They worked for the government, so they were kind of like mutants that had ties to the government. Then after that, later on, eventually, when X-Factor reformed, they became an investigator group with multiple Jamie Madrox running them. He was part of the original X-Factor team as well. But yeah, they started becoming more investigators. So X-Factor's always been like that team it's made up of X-Men characters that don't necessarily work side by side with the X-Men. Like, yeah, they'll team up, help out in there, but they're not living in the X-Mansion or Utopia or wherever. They're always off on their own thing. They're doing their own side thing. So this explores the investigator side. And then we have some more X-Force characters, which X-Force is sort of like the dark covert team that they had. So the last time we've seen any of these was Dark City, which is one of the first big box sets that came out. So we're adding 2 more characters for that. There's actually 5 X Factor characters, so you can make a full team of just X Factor. And there's 2 more for X-Force, which is nice because it brings some more to the team from the other set. And plus gets some focus on some of the characters that hadn't been shown. The X-Force team actually covers like 3 different generations of the X-Force teams, because it has like the original X-Force team, which was led by Cable, which is like from the New Mutants. Then there's the X-Force that was Wolverine's covert team, where they wore all black. And then there was finally the more updated one, which was led by Cable again, but this one had like Colossus and Forge. And if you go through the original set and then these characters, it kind of goes through all the timeline of they could be from any of the different ones, and some of them overlap teams. So yeah, we get 3 different X-Men teams, a brand new one. So that's actually cool. So some of our new keywords are clone heroes. So you got characters like, spoilers on who some of these characters are, of course, like Multiple Man and the Separate Cuckoos, who are clones of each other. Basically what clone says, if it appears, however it appears, if it just says do a clone, or if it has like a superpower, like you need instinct or a different type first, or however it gets it, says you may gain another copy of this card from the HQ. If there are none in the HQ, you may gain a copy from the hero deck and shuffle it. Gain means put it in your discard pile. If you clone a shield officer or sidekick, search and shuffle that stack instead. So if you somehow clone a different card, you add the word to a different card, you search whatever stack they would be in. But it has to be the same exact card. So any Multiple Man card is not a clone of another Multiple Man card. It has to be the same name on there. And then they have like when recruited clones. So it says you may clone this ability immediately when you recruit this hero. Do this after you put your recruited hero in your discard pile and after you refill the space. So if you buy them, you put them in your discard pile, then you refill the space, then you get a check for it. So it says when recruited clones won't make you gain more copies. Some heroes will say things like covert clone when this ability only if you have played a covert hero before recruiting this card. So that means you have to play a card and then still recruit one. But then when you get that card, you can immediately draw another duplicate version of it. So is that really cool? And then they did actually, and I'll go over a really neat thing they did with that to make that a little bit easier. But one thing, like a side rule for that, is they recommend, is if you have to search the deck for a card, is maybe set that card aside or whatever. Finish up the rest of your turn. Then when the next players maybe playing their turn, you can be searching the deck for it and then shuffle it instead of making everybody wait for you to dig through the entire deck and then reshuffle it. And then you take another part of your turn. Unless for some reason you need that card in your discard pile. Like your discard pile, your deck's about to run out, you're going to have to shuffle it. So that way it might be back in your deck so you can draw more cards. But if that's not going to happen, you're not going to have anything that's going to affect needing that new card you're going to gain. It's recommended to wait and look for it during the next player's turn, just so that you're not holding everybody up. Especially if reshuffling and all that. Then the villains also have clones, so they can have ambush clone, which means search the villain deck for a copy of this villain, enters the city, but he ignores any further clone effects. And there's a special rule for Predator X, which we'll see why when we get there. If you can't find one, then you just skip it. Our next new ability is called Shatter. So some characters have really powerful blasts that can break defenses. So Shatter means, let's say like shatter a villain in the sewer, or shatter a villain, or a mastermind, or someone. And it says, half that enemy's current attack round up to the nearest whole number. This effect lasts until the end of a turn. You can shatter the same villain multiple times, each time having it. And it's wherever their current one is, so it kind of says down here. So it says a villain gets half of their current. So Pestilence has 5 printed on it, and Apocalypse says the 4 horsemen get +2. Shattering gives her -3 from 7 to 4. So they had 5, 6, 7, and then it takes that 7 down. So they don't half what's printed on their card and then gain bonuses from other cards. It's whatever bonuses they would have get halved, and then you can always have it a second time. You can shatter a mastermind, lasts for 1 fight though, instead of the entire round. So if you play Shatter on a mastermind, like most effects, then you have a chance to attack them. But if you, as soon as you're done attacking, if you can't beat them for some reason, then their health goes back to full. You have to start over. Then a few cards you will let you shadow a hero on the HQ, having their current cost. Our third new ability, there's 3 new ones in here. We have Tactical Formation, just showing how these characters work together well. Just going to say Tactical Formation and then a series of numbers, such as 445. And it says you get this effect. You can use this ability only if you have heroes that cost those numbers. You have to have 2 heroes that cost 4, 1 that costs 5. It counts that card you played, as well as any cards in your hand and any you've played. So unless they've been put somewhere else, like the KO pile or the bottom of the sidekick stack. So like when you play a sidekick, they say then it goes back on the bottom of the deck, so you can't count them towards it. But most sidekicks only cost, so you can't use them towards the ability because they immediately go off the table. Or if something, you play a card and it says to KO this card, you no longer count it because you don't have it. It has to be something you either visibly still have on the table because you've played it, or in your hand that you could show off. But yeah, it's a neat way so you can get, it helps you figure out, like, you gotta be like, oh, if I'm playing a character that has lots of 4, 4, 5s, I want to have a lot of 4, 4, and 5 cards. If you have one that has lots of 2s and 3s, you might want to play more 2s and 3 cards. So that's kind of a neat, interesting new ability, which I could definitely see coming back again. Clones, maybe not as much unless they do a Spider-Man set. Shatter could. And then we have Investigate makes a return. So this is also in Marvel Noir and Dimensions. This is going to say Investigate for a type of card. Could be a symbol, could be a specific name type of card, a hero. It says look at the top 2 cards of your deck, reveal a card with whatever you're looking for from amongst them, draw it. Put the rest of those cards on the top and or bottom of your deck in any order. So if you find it, you get the card. If you don't, you at least get to stack your deck. Either you can put the cards back on top how you want, or you can put them both on the bottom and get new cards if you don't want either of them, like maybe it's 2 shield agents. Or you could put 1 on top, 1 on the bottom, or draw 1 and then figure out where you want that second one to go. Some let you investigate costs, teams, icons, and other traits. We do have more new abilities, believe it or not. We have a villain one called Prey. This video is going a little bit long. There's a lot of new stuff in this set. The villain says stuff like ambush prey on the fewest and then a symbol. It says after the villain enters the sewer, each player reveals their hand and check which player has the fewest of that type of card. Current player decides how to break ties. So as a team, you're probably going to want to decide who can maybe take the hit. It says put this villain in front of that player preying on them. So if you're familiar with like the trap cards from the X-Men set, this is sort of a villain version of that, kind of. So it says any player may still fight that villain as normal. However, if no player defeats that villain by the end of the preyed on player's turn, that uses that villain to finish the prey ability against that player. Then the villain enters the sewer, ignoring its ambush effect. Do the finish the prey ability after they draw a new hand at the end of their turn. So in case they They can't play all their cards and it says discard this. They have to draw a new hand first, then enact it. So if you have 4 players and it's player 1's turn, they could draw a villain that says pray. They could end up targeting player 4. That means player 1, 2, 3, and then all the way through player 4's turn, they have a chance to beat them to stop that prey. But if it's player 1's turn and the prey goes on them, they only have the chance to stop it. And if they can't, then it happens to them because nobody else will get a chance to act before that. It's just kind of an interesting thing. Depending on where it lands, you might have some extra chances or not. Yeah, it's just kind of cool that anyone can do it. Multiple enemies can prey on one player at once, and then they all hit at the same time. So if they do, you might have to be like, oh crap, like we have to stop this or this guy's going to have a terrible turn, or he's already going to have a bad turn, just let him hit. We're not going to waste time killing those guys. Although if you take them out, they don't enter the town or the city, so that's helpful as well. Let's say they kind of work like the traps, because they come in and you have a limited amount of time to defeat them before a bad thing happens. Another reoccurring keyword is Chivalrous Duel. This was also in the Ant-Man set when they were fighting the medieval characters. To fight an enemy with Chivalrous Duel, all the attack you spend must come from a single hero name. So if you're playing with Wolverine, all of them have to be Wolverine named cards. Now this could be regular Wolverine, this could be X-Force Wolverine, this could be the Wolverine Colossus cards, because they're all called Wolverine. But yeah, you can't do it from multiple sources. It's just supposed to show, like, these are supposed to be, like, one-on-one battles. So, like, there it was knights, this one is, like, samurais, from the clan Yoshida. But you can't, if a hero has no name listed out, like a shield trooper or any sidekick, or a villain that became a hero, then its name is the same as a card name. So you can play multiple shield troopers, but you can't use 2 shield troopers and 1 other character. And you can't use anything that's not from a hero. So, shards, or hero artifacts. You can use hero artifacts, but only if it's from the same name. So, like Star-Lord, you could use Star-Lord cards to fight and his artifacts, but you can't use Star-Lord and then Drax's artifacts. Such a little interesting mechanic. Then we have new Special Sidekicks, which are X-Students. So we've seen Sidekicks before. They were in the Secret Wars Volume 1 and the Civil War set. So the Secret Wars Volume 1 just had called Sidekicks. They had a picture of Bucky on there. And then I think they let you draw an extra card. I don't think they did a whole lot of stuff, but it was an extra little ability. Maybe gave you like 1 star, I think. I might be wrong on that. And then Civil War added the Pet Avengers, which gave different abilities, but they're all Avenger characters. So this one's going to add various X-Students. So there's going to be some characters from X-Men, some from X-Factor, and some from X-Force. But you can mix them all together if you have them, so you don't then know which one you're going to draw. They all cost 2. It says once per turn you may pay 2 to recruit a sidekick from the top of the sidekick stack, and then you have it in your deck when you draw it. When you play a sidekick, return it to the bottom of the sidekick stack. So if you don't want to return it, and its ability is not going to help you, you don't have to play it. So if like the thing gets you +2 recruit, and that's all you have, you're not going to be able to buy anything, just don't play it, and then it'll just go back to your discard pile till the next time you get it. Yeah, but I like the fact you get all 3 of them. You can mix all 3 sets together, and it gives you even more random options to get. Or if you don't want to, because maybe you're only playing the Avengers set of characters, or only X-Men, maybe you only want to include just these ones. It's sort of the same way the Shield set, I think it was Shield, had the Shield agent cards. So that way you could add them in with the Maria Hill, so you had different options. And then the last new thing in here are called Veiled and Unveiled Schemes. This is an interesting mechanic. It's kind of weird though, and you'll see what I mean when we get to them. But basically, all 4 steams have a veiled side, and then a double-sided, there's unveiled. When you use these cards, they start the veiled steam face up at a certain point. So you play them like a regular steam. It says how many twists you have, what happens on each twist, and different setup effects. At some point, though, they'll flip over to the unveiled side. So you're revealing this stuff. They're starting to do something sinister, and they're just to flip them over. Here's what the actual plot was. But since you don't know what it is, what you do is you take that card and currently the other 3, and maybe hopefully they'll release more. You shuffle them together and you draw them, so you know which of the 4 alternate ones you're gonna get. So it's a neat idea, but you'll see why it's a little bit weird when we get there. It'll be easier to explain when I show you. Alright, so that is what we have for this. So before I get too in-depth in every single card, I just want to show off what's neat about the clone cards. So normally a character has, I'm going to just look at this. So you get your uncommon cards, which are full bordered, and you usually have 4 of them. Oh, this is not a good example. Or you get 5 copies of one, 5 of the other, the full border. That's your common. You get 3 copies of an uncommon, which have a half border. And then you get your one, ultimate card, which has no border. That's how normal cards work. So that makes up your 14 card deck. It's 5, 5, 3, and 3, and then 1. So it makes your more powerful cards a little bit harder to get. The clone cards, however, to make you be able to get more, is you have 4 copies, 4 copies, and 4 copies of 3. They're all common. There is no uncommon card, and then you get 2 copies of the rare. And the rares are a little bit cheaper, but they did that so that way you have 4, 4, and 4 versus 5, 5, and 3. That way you have a little bit better odds of getting that 3rd card. And you're a little bit, and that also maybe just so that way you're not overwhelming with too many of the exact same clone cards. So after the 3rd time you play it, you're done. Alright, so that's all that. We're going to hop into the heroes and start looking at them.